good evening, and welcome to Shriekfest Radio. This is Denise Gossett. I am the festival director and your hostess for the night. So tonight we're going to be talking to Danny Draven, and he is a filmmaker, producer, writer, a little bit of everything, editor, and he had a feature film, Ghost Month, in the festival in 2007. Great film. So we will be talking to him and see what he's been up to. Haven't talked to him in a while. It's been since 2007, other than emails. So it'll be nice to chat with him. I hope everybody's doing great out there and following their dreams. And let me get him on the line.
Hello.
Danny?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Denise Gossett from Shriekfest Radio. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you? How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a while since we chatted, huh?
Yeah, it has been. I think it was, I don't remember now. What was it? I think the last time I talked was that, 2007, right? Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was just telling everyone how Ghost Month was in the festival in 2007, but you have been up to tons of things since then.
Yes.
I want to talk a little... What?
No, I said yes, you're absolutely right. There's lots of stuff,
Yes, you are a busy man. I want to talk a little bit about Ghost Month, and then we'll go into your current projects and everything like that. Sound good?
Sure, good.
Okay. Now, Ghost Month, you basically did everything on it.
Yes, that's true. Ghost Month pretty much started as it was a lot of the work I've done before Ghost Month was sort of like almost like a producer director sort of for hire. So it was kind of we made stuff very specific for the market, and Ghost Month was something that was completely the money was raised separately and everything was sort of separate. We didn't have a home for it when we made it. So we went out and raised the money and shot the film. We shot it on 35 in Nevada, all of it, and
wow.
And ended up going through the festival circuit. And that's kind of how I met you.
Yep.
Through Shriekfest and a couple other ones that it was at, and it ended up. It took a while because it was in 2007 was kind of tricky. I think those couple years were a little tricky for us sort of indie filmmakers because it seemed like the economy was really bad around that time. So it was it seemed, at least from my perspective, it was very hard to sell our film at that point. But it ended up getting distribution. Lionsgate actually ended up putting it out, and
awesome.
It also played on Chiller TV and everything for about a year, and came out on Blu-ray and DVD, and sort of the rest is history. And then now it's on Netflix streaming now, but it's been so long now. But I did do everything on the film. A lot of the stuff, produced it, wrote it, directed it, and
edited.
Edited. Yeah,
You did it all.
I did it all. I mean, I have a extensive editing, sort of background, so it just made sense. Usually on my films, I also edit them, even though, believe it or not, I actually don't want to normally, because sometimes it's better to have another person edit your film just to have that other perspective. But because I have done it so much, sometimes it's just easier and budget friendly.
Right. Is it hard to have that many hats working on a film?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's actually now in the more recent stuff, it's nicer sometimes because if I'm just directing, it's just so nice because you just show up, direct, go home. But on a movie like Ghost Month, and even some of the stuff I did before, I was wearing so many hats. It was getting to the point where you're not doing as good of work as you could do, because you do have so many things on your mind to take care of. I remember on the set of Deathbed, it was a film I did with Stuart Gordon. It was called Stuart Gordon Presents Deathbed. It was a movie that he was executive producing, and sort of like, kind of like The Godfather on, in a way. And on that film, it was funny because when I first met him, he wanted to see how we made these sort of low budget movies, and he's used to obviously much bigger budgets, and so we made this film Deathbed, and I remember on the set I was right in the middle of like kind of a pretty important scene in the movie, and this flag. This flag started to burn a little bit on the set. And my sort of producer side kicked in and was like, oh no, that's going to cost us some money here and there, and I got distracted. And Stuart's like, would you just pay attention, to the monitor? Don't worry about that. And then again, that felt to me like one of those moments where it was like your producer side's kind of like, oh, worrying about the money and all that, and then your director side's not sort of paying attention to, more importantly, what's going on in the scene, especially when you're shooting, and that I think is a good example, at least for me, like of that sort of war against yourself when you're on set. If you're producing, directing, line, because when I say producing, I mean literally like line producing, like scheduling, making phone calls. I'm not just just a producer credit that you just throw out there. I mean, it's real hard. Work, coming up with everything along the way. And I think that does distract you a lot when you're doing too many hats at once. And, if you're just starting out, whatever, you don't have much choice. But I think as you move on and make a lot more movies, I think you'll realize, at least I have, that delegation is very important.
Right. Now, for people out there who don't know, you worked with Full Moon people, Charles Band.
Oh, yeah.
You worked on Puppet Master and Trancer, Subspecies, and like you just said, you worked with Stuart Gordon. How amazing was all of that? Do you feel like that kind of formed you, molded you?
Yeah, I've been working with Full Moon. When I say working with them, I have a post-production company, and we have been doing all of their the majority, I would say, of their post-production work for the last 10 years. So 10 years of movie madness. And Charlie Ben is a very close friend of mine. I've known him a very long time. So he's he's been great, and we just have this sort of relationship where my company has pretty much edited every film for the last 10 years. There are some exceptions in there, but I would say the majority. And yeah, Puppet. I just cut Puppet Master 10 last year for them, and a couple other, but just a ton of stuff. Lucky Charms, which just came out at Redbox yesterday. 2 days ago. Just came out. That was a kind of like a throwback to like Troll and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, we do a lot. I do a lot of work for those guys, and yes, I think it has certainly taught me a lot, and formed me a lot as a filmmaker. But I did go to film school when 10 years ago, or however long it has been now. But I think the real film school was really, making lower budgeted films and being thrown onto the set and having to make stuff in 6 days, 8 days, and having to do all your own everything, and I really believe that has always been the best film school.
Now, do you, I like to ask this question, do you feel it's important for people to go to film school?
I do get that question a lot, and it's one of the reasons I wrote a book. I actually wrote 3 books, but one
which is amazing.
One book, yeah, the one I can tell you about that later. But to answer your question, I think film school. Look, I went to film school. I was and that's what my degree is in. I started at Berklee College of Music actually for about a year, and I was there for film scoring. And then I transferred out to film school, and that's where I finished my actual film degree. But I have to say, even that was only, 12 years ago or something, and at that time, we were learning. I learned how to edit on a bench edit, which is the very old way of rolling real film through a viewfinder and reels and the whole thing. And then film 2, we moved up to a Steenbeck, which is an 8-plate Steenbeck, and bringing in our rolls of film and really cutting actual film and bending and the whole deal. So that's where I learned how to edit in film school. And then I transitioned into digital on my own because they didn't want us to really do it in school for whatever reason. And I think I think that was important there, but I feel like for me the answer is no, because I don't think that you need to go to film school to I don't think it's that necessary.
Yeah.
And for me, I was turned on to things that I may have not been turned on to before, like certain filmmakers, certain styles of cinema. Really getting into the academic side of stuff. I think that for me is probably what I brought out of film school more than anything else. Because honestly, the experience of some of the professors, the information, it wasn't something that I could go out into the real world and really use. Now, with that said, after I graduated, I mean, even the cameras they had there, there was just for me it wasn't top of the line and stuff that we could really use. But for me, the real film school was moving to LA and really getting down and dirty, rolling up your sleeves, and actually getting onto real sets. I mean, even if they were low budget films. I mean, and I think low budget films are a great way for filmmakers to start, because sometimes the bigger studio films, you're kind of a much smaller peed in the pod, or a much smaller guy. Whereas an indie film, you're working with very small crew. You got 10 people on the set, and you become you become friends, with everybody, and it's I think it's a much better situation to get in, especially for a new filmmaker. And then you maintain those relationships, and if you're good, you'll maybe get on the next one, and maybe move up to another position, and kind of work your way in that way. But I think real set experience is absolutely the best film school, and I think your money would be better spent, honestly, by taking it and actually going out and financing your own film.
Yes, I've heard that before. I agree too, because sometimes film school can hold you back.
Yeah, absolutely. It really can, and I mean, I just really feel. I mean, if I'd known what I know now, of course, I would have certainly made several films, and not went to film school. Actually, I would have majored in something completely different, most likely business. But majoring in business, or actually, if you want to be a producer, actually focusing on business and even law. Is actually a good concentration, because I've met a lot of producers that actually, they're just straight up lawyers. They went to law school, but they ended up wanting to be in the movie business, and they have that law background and they're great contracts, and it's a really great background to have. But if you've already gone to film school, that's fine. But I'm just saying, it doesn't. Everybody I've talked to and asked, they really don't care whether you've gone or not. It's really about, what have you done? What's the last film you've done? Whether it was a short or just something to really show your experience level. And for me, as a producer, when I hire people, I could care less if you went to film school or not. I've had people all the time that give me their resume, and they're like, I have a master's degree at MFA and film this and film that. It really doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is the set experience and the personality, and just really meeting the person and seeing, if there's somebody that you want to work with or not. And that's really the key to it for me, and when I hire people.
Wow. Now, do you, with a company that does so much editing, do you feel like it's hard for you to find time to make your own movies too?
Oh yeah, sure. No, absolutely. But yeah, it is. I do it. It's just, but we do. I mean, we don't only do editing too. I mean, we do all the Blu-ray authoring, we do a lot of DVD authoring. We do. We used to do a lot of the sound work for Full Moon, but I don't really handle that anymore. But I was doing it for several years actually. The original Ginger Dead Man and Evil Bong and all that stuff.
Wow.
We did all the sound work for that. But now it pretty much focused. We just kind of do more of the editing, mastering, DVD authoring, Blu-ray authoring, sort of stuff. More than anything else, trailer editing. We do all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's kind of like just like. I don't want to say a day job, but that's pretty much a business, and we just sort of do it, and we have our clients that we work with, and I have a lot of clients other than just Full Moon, and we just keep very busy with it, and it's much better than shoveling rocks.
Right.
But no, it keeps, and honestly, it's when you work on so many other people's films. And you really, we fix a lot of problems, you know, at my company. There's a lot of things that come in that maybe there may have been sound issues, or there was some reason it wasn't shot right, or whatever it was, and I spend a lot of time fixing things. And you know, even from sitting in a dark studio all day long with doing all that stuff, you actually learn a lot, you know, as well. You know, so you see how other people have made mistakes, and then you were able to sort of, you know, not
right.
not make that happen on your own film. So I guess in a way that helps. But no, it does take you away a little bit. But I just look at it more as like, you know, it's more my business and kind of a day job, and I wish you could make movies 24 hours a day, but as we all know, it's you know, if you're lucky if you can get 1 or 2 movies made a year, you know, but Full Moon does about 6 right now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Now, your latest project is Real Evil. Tell us about this.
Yes. Yeah, Real Evil, which just came out on, I guess it just came out now. It came out, believe it or not, it came out on Christmas Eve, which is like the most strangest release date I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
For a found footage horror movie. So, I don't know, there's some reason that they came out on that date, but I remember hearing that date, and I'm like, what? Who would go out on Christmas Eve and rent that movie? But apparently, I don't know, they'd done some research, I guess, something about the you know, a lot of people, there's so many like family films, and sometimes people just want to see a horror movie, you know,
right.
On Christmas Eve or around the Christmas holidays and stuff.
Right.
So anyway, that's when it came out, and it was shot last year. It was shot later last year, I think around September or so, and it came out, and so we did it very quickly. It was it's a found footage horror film. It was shot all in L.A. It was shot in 6 days, and it was shot at the Linda Vista Asylum, or the old Linda Vista Hospital over there.
Oh, wow.
In LA, which is, you know, apparently one of the most haunted places in the U.S. And I knew that going into it. And they shot tons of stuff there. But when we shot there, I did some EVP sessions on my own, and I actually caught some voices and stuff. I mean,
really?
Crew members were having some experiences, and it's a totally creepy place. It's a great place to shoot, you know. So that was a lot of fun. But it pretty much is, you know, sort of a found footage vibe, and it kind of follows these guys as they're making this sort of documentary inside this asylum, and it kind of goes from there, and things get crazy, and horror movie stuff ensues, and
wow.
That's it. But it was fun, yeah.
Is Real Evil what number feature is that one of yours for you?
I think that's I want to say number 8 or 9. 8 or 9.
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember. It's 8 or 9, but yeah, it's like 8 or 9. But it's different than anything I've done really, I would say, because it's the found footage genre is very it's not really a favorite of mine, I would say.
Right.
It's more of a I don't know. But it's a different style of working, you know. And it was just, but we needed to do this sort of a film at the time, and I'm always up for new stuff. So I said, yeah, why not? I'll do it. Sounds like fun, and but it was a different style of filmmaking, because you have that sort of subjective camera through the whole thing, so there's not a lot of opportunities to cut or to cover or to do like traditional coverage that you would do in a normal
right. So you can shoot quicker.
Film setting. Yeah, and and honestly, as easy as something like that sounds, a lot of people are like, oh, I found footage film, that must be so easy. You just take the camera out and you just go shoot, and you just that's all you do. And honestly, I come from a very extensive technical background, and when I was doing that film, I said, look, I mean, we're going to do this right and capture this audio properly and everything. We need, this is actually a very challenging film to make, because one, I like, for instance, well, sound-wise, I mean, I had to get a special sound guy in there that could literally like lav like 9 people, because there's nowhere to hide lights. There's we're going room to room with the camera, and there's nowhere to hide lights, nowhere to hide crew. The boom, there's nowhere to hide a boom guy, and there's nowhere to hide the director. I had to duck behind countertops and hide in rooms and not actually look at a monitor for the majority of that film. And then I would have to have playback afterwards because there just wasn't anywhere to stand. Because we would go room to room and we would swing the camera around, and I tried to do that a lot so we could show the audience, like, hey, look, there's nobody standing behind the camera.
Right.
Swing around. And the DP had to shoot some. The actors actually had to shoot some of it. And that's kind of how that was made, along with being the labs and everything along the way. So it was actually a very, very challenging movie to make from a technical standpoint, you know, to really capture it properly. But yeah, it was fun though. I had fun making it.
We see a lot of the found footage lately. It's like this craze that's going on. But you're right. Everyone just thinks, oh, how easy can this be? I don't even have to put it on sticks.
Yeah.
I can hold it. It doesn't matter if it's sloppy. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, clear. And yeah, it does matter.
It does actually.
You start to get really annoyed with it all.
Yeah, and it does. And I tried to, when we made Real Evil. I mean, I think if you watch it, you'll see that it does have kind of a more of a polished Hollywood look to it, and that was intentional. I mean, it is 100% handheld. I mean, and we run around, but I really tried to keep it, keep it so it won't make you seasick, and keep the color a certain green, dirty tinge to it, and just sort of give it a little bit more of a polish than say like a more of like a Blair Witch vibe, where it's like low quality found footage cameras. And the idea is that these guys were professional. These guys were kind of professional shooting this Hollywood sort of behind the scenes things, and we're in 2012, so they would have more high quality HD cameras. So I just tried to make it as high a quality as we could and give it a nice polish to it. And
well, I'm gonna have to see it.
What we did.
It sounds cool. I'm gonna have to see it.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, and there's a ton of extra features on the disc. Usually, a lot of the full moon features we sometimes there's usually a video zone or some trailers and stuff, and we try to do as many features as you can. But of course, Real Evil, I had to go like ridiculously overboard with the extra features. So there's like commentary and just like the ridiculous amount of extra features, motion menus. I mean, we went bloopers, music videos. There's a lot of bang for your buck or rental or whatever when you actually get to the disc. So yeah.
Now, because you didn't produce Real Evil as opposed to Ghost Month, did you feel like you had less control over things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, anytime you're Real Evil, I was strictly the director. I mean, I literally just, which was great, because you just come in, direct, you go home, and up to me, I'm like, wow, I don't have to stay and help clean up or anything. I just go home. Great, but no, you absolutely have a little less control. I mean, there's things that I could have left in there that I wanted to leave in there that we ended up having to cut out, or cut completely out, and and not much though. I mean, the stuff I think we got out was good that we cut it out. We just really wanted to get it moving quicker. But I'm happy with what we did with it. But yeah, there's definitely less control. I mean, but I didn't really have to fight that battle, I don't think, on Real Evil. But I think if there's in future films, when you are just the director, there's a lot more things that you have to, a lot more hoops that you have to jump through if you want to. If people come in and give you like a lot of notes and you don't necessarily agree with them or want to cut things out, then you have to be diplomatic and try to really pick what's worth fighting for and what isn't, and don't have an ego when somebody says, hey, this scene doesn't really work here. And I don't. I mean, if somebody comes in, I mean, luckily I have a strong editing background, so I know kind of what to cut out, what to leave in. But sometimes you may not agree with a producer or something that says, hey, I really think you should cut this out. And it's like, okay. Most of the time I agree. Most of the time, I think you're right. I think it might improve the film. But if I really believe it doesn't, I would give a good, strong argument. Well, why do you think that it doesn't work? And then we might have just a good discussion on why they think it doesn't work. And sometimes you can convince them otherwise. Or maybe it's just a matter of cutting a line out or two lines out, and maybe that would improve it, or just cutting it down and not necessarily out. So, it's just just a lot of diplomatic work usually with that. But when you produce your own thing and you direct your own thing, like for instance, Ghost Month, that is completely yours, 100%.
Right.
Nobody tells you really what to cut out, and a distributor might, though. You never know. If you get to
Right.
a distributor, they may say, oh, I really think you should cut 10 minutes out of this thing or whatever, and they have their reasons, for that kind of stuff. But most of the time, you don't listen to them. It's just like, oh yeah, so it just depends. It's every movie is different. Every movie has is different. But if you really want to have control over your own film 100%, then yeah, I would say you definitely finance it yourself, produce it yourself, direct it yourself. That way, you're 100% sure that that it's the way you wanted it from beginning to end. Because as somebody who's done producing and directing for hire, you for sure that when you're done with the final product and you show it to your investor or your producer, there will almost always be notes, and there will always be things that they will want changed, whether you agree with it or not.
Right. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about editing, since you have such a vast background in it. One of my complaints with a lot of the films that get submitted is the editing. And I feel like filmmakers feel since they shot it, they should use it, and that's not always the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've never edited, so I'm looking at this simply as a festival director, and what I see is just unbelievable. Like, you have a great film, but it's 20 minutes too long, and you start to look at it and you're like, okay, I would cut that scene down, I would cut that, I wouldn't even keep this whole character in here. I mean, things like that. Do you see that as a problem a lot in your friends' projects or whatever?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've edited over 100 films now, literally.
Wow.
And it's been, it's just we've done. Personally, the amount of movies that we normally get in and cut together, it's a lot. And I think on the IMDb I'm only credited for a certain amount, because we have other aliases that we won't mention. But the ones that I have been credited on, it's a craft. It's not something that you can just. People think because, look, Final Cut is only $200, that you can just buy the program, you drop in a few clips, and all of a sudden you're an editor. An editor, just like a writer, just like a producer, just like a director, it's a craft. It's just not a matter of just cutting together people's dialogues. There are just, an enormous amount of things you have to pay attention to when you're cutting a scene together. Between performance and eye lines and just timing and pacing and geography of the scenes, and just overall, when you have it all cut together, going back and saying, okay, now what can we cut out? And just really keeping the film moving as quickly and as tight as possible. I cut a movie for Sci-Fi Channel, a big giant spider movie called Ice Spiders. A friend of mine, Tibor Takas directed, and it was actually right around Ghost Month, I think, when I did that one. It was they shot it in Utah, and it was a Sci-Fi Channel movie of the week, big giant 3D spiders, the whole thing. And that was probably one of the most difficult, I think, films I've ever edited. But it was again, one of those movies where you just, editing is just so key. You got giant spiders and the action, you just have to really keep all that stuff moving. And then, of course, you got a lot of stages of notes that it goes through between Sci-Fi Channel and the producers and the director and all that as well. But editing, if you want to be an editor, you really have to look at it like you would anything else, like writing or anything else, as a craft and as something that you need to work at, you need to practice, because editing can absolutely destroy a good movie. You remember, it starts with the writer, but it really ends with the editor, because the editor is sort of your last storytelling, moment. I can take one scene and I can make the actor look bad. I can make them look good. I can make them look like they don't know their lines. I can make them look like they're reading off of cue cards, which several semi-famous B-movie actors do, and you got to cut around. and you got to, the editor can make or break a lot of things, and pacing and story and how you shift the scenes, and so I'm grateful that I learned that way. And when I direct kind of like an editor in a way, because I kind of only shoot what I know we need, and we move on. So we move very quickly. I don't need to shoot a scene, 25 different angles, because I'm just guessing what I want. So I get that actually more than anything, where I'll get material in where you can kind of tell that the filmmaker doesn't know what they want. So they overcover the scene to the point where the editor looks at all those shots and there's like, what? Well, what is the scene about? What are you trying to accomplish? Who's dominant in this? And then I have to put it all together and to make sense out of it. Whereas if like an editor director goes in, the editor director can kind of knows right away kind of what all they really need for the scene. Yeah, you still have some coverage here and there. You need to have some options. But you don't spend all day shooting something that you could knock out in a very short amount of time. So
I don't even know people give the thought to it like you're saying. I see either too much coverage or not enough coverage. There'll be things like there's a knife on the counter, and we hold the camera on that knife for 5 to 10 seconds. I think people are assuming the audience is dumb.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We get it. We see it's a knife. Let's move on. So little things like that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me having seen so many movies over the years that I'm just tired of seeing that.
No, absolutely. No, you are. I mean, you when you see a well-edited movie, you don't see the editing. It's just invisible.
Exactly.
I mean, it just flows, and you don't see it at all. When you notice it is like that, like the knife shot. I'm sure it was, a moment that could have either been didn't need to be there, or maybe it was, could have been shorter, or there could have been a million ways they could have done it. But I think the biggest problem filmmakers are having these days, and I'm guilty of it too. When I first started, I did the same thing, and it is thinking that everything needs to be cut all the time, instead of really paying more attention to the fluidness of a scene, and really paying attention to moving the camera, moving the actors, and really really blocking the scene to the point where you don't really need to cut that much, to where it's like, oh, okay, I need an insert here, I need this, and I need to cut. It's always it's this constant cutting all the time. When it's just a bunch of people in a room talking, and you could have done it in a more fluid way, and that's really what I've really been focusing on a lot more these days with my found footage film is an exception, because that just by the style alone, that's kind of, you need to be a kind of a that shaky camera kind of vibe. But I mean, when a movie like say, like Ghost Month, I think was a little more fluid. I mean, it was a slower paced film intentionally, and it was just meant to sort of, take you through the story, but really kind of take your time with it, instead of it being more of a cut all the time.
Right. I still love that movie.
Vibe, so. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, even that movie, I feel like if going in retrospect, I feel like I could have cut 10 minutes out of it, 10 more minutes out of it, but it at the time, it was good. But you always be like that, no matter what you make. You always think like, I could have cut that out, or I could have made that better, or cut that that line out, or whatever it was. But yeah, it was fun. No, it was fun. But editing, yeah, I mean, I would say too, if any filmmakers out there, if you start out and you and one thing that can really help you as a director is to have a really strong editing background, for sure. And a lot of editors. There's a lot of some people I know. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's I'm trying to think of some big names that were editors before they were directors. Well, the guy, what's his name? The guy who did Dracula 2000, Patrick. Lussier, I think I'm probably pronouncing his last name wrong.
Oh, he was an editor first?
Yeah, he was. I believe he was an editor before he started directing, like Dracula 2000. I think he did that. There's a Nicolas Cage movie I think he did too. But anyway, he think he was an editor before he was directing. There's a lot of them out there. If you look at their background, you'll see some people that did a lot of editing before they started directing, and you'll watch their films and you're like, oh wow. And sometimes they edit their own films too. I actually would prefer not to. Believe it or not, some people. I actually would like to just direct the film and then have somebody else kind of edit it and then come in and sort of
tweak,
cut, tweak or recut, as needed, just to have sort of that fresh perspective of another person to sort of take the material you shot and put it together. But usually I pretty much edit all my own films with a few exceptions. I think all my films I've edited it with some exceptions in there. I think I've had other people do, but yeah.
Huh. I often get asked, is it a waste of time to submit to a festival at near the last deadline? Do we actually, or is it a waste of time to submit a unfinished film? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you remember, Ghost Month was not finished.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I remember.
When you submit, of course you knew it would be by the time the festival came around, but you submitted
barely. Barely.
But it got in, and we could tell from the rough copy that was sent, and you kept us posted all along. So yes, it does work. You just got to make sure the film will be done by the festival.
Yeah. If you can avoid it, for sure, you don't want to send out something that's rough if you can absolutely avoid it. So try everything you possibly can to send something that is finished. But sometimes the deadlines are deadlines, and absolutely, Ghost Month was I remember that it was a rough. I think I can't remember what was so rough. Oh, some of the effect shots weren't done yet, and I think some of the music wasn't done yet, and so I had little there was some little titles that came up every now and then, oh yeah, effect shot here or something like that. But, but yeah, I mean, even we were very, very down to the deadline. I think when we did screen it at that time. So, but we did, and we did tweak it even after. I mean, but it was certainly good enough to screen at the time. But we
talent is talent. It's even if it's a rough version, we can see that you have the talent and the story's there and the acting's there, and so
Yeah,
but I think that
definitely.
was a perfect example because I completely remember Ghost Month. I was like, oh, we like it, and I remember I kept emailing you, is it going to be done? Is it going to be done?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no, for sure. I was like, we can. I mean, luckily, it's kind of in control of my own sort of post, so I was able to really, when I said yes, I meant yes because I'm
you can do it any hour of the day.
Right, exactly. But sometimes other people, they may not have that. They may not have those resources at their demand where they need to check with, they might not know how fast their editor can do it or how fast their sound guy can do it or anything. So sometimes that, those might be factors. But yeah, I wouldn't let that hold you back. Yeah, if you can, if that's your only option and not to miss the deadline. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now, have you always been a horror fan?
Yeah, I've always been a horror fan. Yeah, for sure. Ever since I can remember, I've been watching bloody, scary movies. So.
What's the first horror film you saw that left an impression?
Wow. I think it was probably. I saw. I wasn't supposed to, but I think I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 2 in the theater. And I wasn't supposed to be. I was way too young, but I was supposed to be in there. And I remember when Freddy's tongue came out of the phone and all that stuff.
Oh,
and I totally. I mean, back then it was just totally just like that. That was like the coolest thing ever, to see. And even Evil Dead. I mean, I didn't see it in Evil Dead 2. I mean, I didn't see it in the theater or anything, but I was kind of one of those home video. Guys like a lot of people were back then, and you get that VCR, and your whole life is literally just renting constant amounts of films. And it's funny because I remember renting, Puppet Master 4 and 5 and all that stuff back when I was young in Ohio, and then it was like, and then here I am today where it's like, I can't stop seeing these puppets because I work on so many of the full moon things. And even in college when I was in film school, I worked at a video store, and I was like this sort of assistant manager of it or something, mainly because Quentin Tarantino was one. I just wanted to follow in his footsteps, so I ended up working at a video store, and not to mention free movies. So I would rent a constant amount of the VHSs and DVD when it came out and everything. But I remember when I was working there that we had these little stickers. I don't know if you remember, like, you could go into the video store sometimes back then, and it was like you always had that, like, Bob recommends, and and they would put their little, the staff members would put their little stickers on the movies they thought were cool, and all of mine were horror films, and they were like it was funny because some of them were Full Moon. It was like Head of the Family, Danny Recommends, it was like all these like weird movies from Full Moon, Blood Dolls and stuff like that, and then I had other stuff in there too, but I mean I just remember that some of that was Full Moon, and then here I am today where it was like Charlie and I are just such good friends, and we worked together so much, and it was like but in film in those days it was like I didn't really I wouldn't have seen that wouldn't have imagined that now, but so
that's really cool.
That's good. Yeah.
Now what's your casting process?
Well, the casting process is different sort of in every film, but so a movie like Ghost Month was sort of we kind of did a lot. We put out the breakdowns, and we just do sort of a traditional casting. I get sort of a casting person to involved and do it that way now. But with a movie like Real Evil, we actually have a casting director, so the casting director sort of handles it all, which is for me is sort of what I do now.
Right.
On all future films is everything will just go through a casting director. So they just they put out the breakdowns and people submit, and we I honestly I don't. For me, I look at I have them usually I have them videotaped, and I will look at the sort of selects, and based on those audition tapes, I'll pick the people to come in, and then I'll.
You don't hold. Oh, you do hold callback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We absolutely hold callbacks. But the very first audition, though, I'm not present. It's the casting director. They sort of go through, all the submissions, bring people in, and they do videotape the auditions specifically for the director, for me, and then I will look at the video auditions, and then based on those video auditions, I will pick. I'll give them a list of actors to bring in for the callbacks, and then I will physically be there for the callbacks. So I'll come down to the callbacks, and the actors come in, all the people I wanted to see, and they run through the scene, and and a lot of times I will the way I do it normally is I will like to redirect the actors in the session. And there's obviously a lot of reasons for that. I mean, actors really need to know how to take direction and hit marks and a lot of times, people will lose. Sometimes people will lose the gig because of that. And certainly a movie like Ghost Month was very. I was very specific because we're shooting 35 millimeters, so you every time if you goof up a line or you miss a mark a lot,
right? It's money,
it costs
money,
hundreds of dollars. Yeah, video who cares, but when it's film, I meyou really can't be a newbie, or if you are, you just really need to understand like how you really need to get it for us, on these when we were shooting on film. Now a video, obviously that's who cares, but you still need to be able to. To hit marks and take direction, and we do a lot of different things at the audition, and a lot of it, that's not all we look for, but certainly a lot of it depends on the person, what they can bring to the project, their talent, their the way that they look, the way that they interpret that character, the way they give the performance, and then I like to redirect them a lot actually in the audition, just kind of see what they're capable of, and because I have a lot of technical background, but I'm also more of an actor's director, so I really believe that the majority of my job is in that casting. So once we really cast somebody that's right for that part, then the rest you just sit back and just watch them do their magic, and you make sure that they stay on the right path and help them when they need help, and keep the actors where they need to be, and that's really all you need to do when you have a good actor, a great actor. So.
Right. Cool. You've also written 3 books. My goodness, is there anything you don't do, Danny?
No, well, I don't. No, not just. I'm trying not to do so much. I'm trying to focus more on making movies. But no, I've written a couple books. The first one I wrote was I'll give you a quick recap. But it was the first one I wrote was a book called The Filmmaker's Book of the Dead, and How to Make Your Own Heart-Racing Horror Film. And I would say that book pretty much. I wrote that book because I always get asked a lot of questions about, how making low-budget movies, whether it's about, how do you do this, or how can I get this location, or how do you deal with certain contracts, or how do you make a movie that fast, or whatever. So and it's just usually through Facebook or Twitter, or just emails that people have sent me or whatever. And I wanted to write one for a long time, and I said, I'm gonna write this book, and I just sort of sat down and. We took about a year to write it, and what you got is pretty much a to Z of how we make these sort of low budget horror pictures, from concept through pre-production, post-production, and production, and marketing, distribution, and the whole thing. And I've gotten a lot of that book was very successful, and it got a lot of great reviews and compliments from people. I had a lot of people. Actually, one guy I remember, he sent me. He's like, "Dude, I have your book with me on set. It's invaluable." And I was like, "Wow, it's like the best compliment ever."
Yeah.
So and I put a lot of information in there, probably too much, but there's a lot of information in there, and I think it was very helpful for a lot of people who were out trying to make their own films. And that was the first one, and the second one was more of a conversations with different filmmakers that I know and have been friends with. And then the third one, which just came out in May, is called Genre Filmmaking, A Visual Guide to Shot and Style. And that book is more of a it's not really cinematography. I guess it could be considered a little bit on the cinematography front, but it's more about shots and how they're used in certain genres. Like, for instance, I was going to cover a lot more genres, but I just didn't have time to write, that amount of material. That book took a year too. But this one, I focused on horror, comedy, thriller, and science fiction. And I picked Hollywood movies, like big Hollywood movies, as examples. For shots, like I would pick, like, say, a certain kind of POV shot that you see a lot in horror movies, like, for instance, in Evil Dead 2, where he's got, Ash has the first person perspective, like the gamer's perspective. There may have been one shot example of something you would see a lot in a horror film. So I would give an example, like from Evil Dead 2, from Doom, from Army of Darkness. You can see those shots in those 3 films.
Right.
And then that carried over into the comedy genre, which I use an example from, like, Wedding Singer or some other a bunch of other. The Graduate, I think, was one, and then thriller and science fiction had their own as well. So yeah, that was the latest and greatest.
Wow.
And it's and again, it just came out, so it's hard to say. I mean, people have enjoyed it so far. So, but as far as being from sort of an A to Z filmmaker thing, I think the Filmmaker's Book of the Dead, as it pertains to horror, it is definitely a great resource.
And where can everybody find them?
Oh, you can get them at there are at your local bookstore. You can get them on Amazon.com, and it has a really good price on it too. You can get it at Barnes and Nobles. Borders is out of business, I think, now, but whatever the major booksellers usually carry it, especially in LA because of the film industry there. And it's full color. The whole book is just, it's not one of those things where you open it and everything. It's like a bunch of text. It's just loaded with, like, pictures and just full color examples of everything. So the whole book, both books, the genre filmmaking and the filmmakers look at it, are both full color books, which are for our publishers more expensive to make, but they're just so much better when you have like just full color examples of everything. So, but yeah, Amazon.com is probably one of the best places to buy it, or your local bookseller. So.
Wow, yeah. Wow, that's really cool. I feel like Shriekfest should be handing them out to people.
Yeah, well, Shriekfest, I think I mentioned in Filmmakers Book of the Day. So. Oh yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, somewhere in the film festival section, I think, because I was using examples from Ghost Month, so I think I mentioned you guys in there. And I think it has a list of some. On the website, there's also like some companion material that goes along with it, and I think there's like a list of film festivals. There's a list of distributors. There's a list of there's like a lot of behind the scenes material from a lot of full moon movies and my own films and whatnot. So it has this sort of companion website that goes along with it as well. But you get a lot in the book too.
Cool.
So, yeah.
How can people find you? Before we run out of time, I want to make sure do you have a website? Are you on Twitter, on Facebook? Where can they find you?
I'm pretty easy to find. I have my own personal website is DannyDraven.com, and I put all the latest and greatest news and information on there, and you can subscribe to the news feed and all that stuff through there. I'm on Facebook. So just type in Danny Draven and you'll find me on Facebook, and you can friend me. I'm happy to be friends on Facebook. I also have a Twitter account. I'm also the same thing, Danny Draven on Twitter. I'm very active in social media, honestly. On Real Evil, the last film, I mean, I do vidcast daily from the set, post set pictures right to Twitter, right to Facebook. So if you want to stay in touch and everything, yeah, definitely Facebook, Twitter for me is I'm very active with it, especially when we're in production, which is a lot of fun because I try to give the the people who are on Facebook or Twitter followers and stuff kind of an inside look into what's going on the set. Like, hey, look, today we're setting up the makeup, or say we're check out the new monster or whatever. So definitely come and follow on Twitter and follow friend on Facebook, and I try to answer. Sometimes you can send me a question or whatever through Facebook is fine. I try to respond as many as I can. I do get a lot of that, from filmmakers and stuff. And that again, that's why I wrote that book, because I was like, maybe I should just write a book on this. And then there's just one resource, but I do get a lot of people like, hey, what do you think of this camera or whatever? And I was like, yeah, that's
right.
It's a pretty cool camera, or what software do you recommend to edit my movie or whatever, that sort of thing. So I do get.
Well, that's nice that you're open to all the questions.
Yeah, I try to answer them as much as I can. The one thing I don't take though is that we're not looking for any screenplays at the moment. So I do get that a lot. But we're just like, I wish we could make everything, but it's just there's only so many scripts that we can do. But sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But usually I do post casting notes through my social media links. Like when we are looking for people, sometimes it's last minute too. Sometimes somebody bailed. We're like, hey, we need somebody to play this. This 2-line part in the movie. Anybody up for it? Send your resume to this email. So that's also a great way to really get up-to-date information on anything regarding casting or crew. Actually, I have posted stuff sometimes where it's like, hey, we're looking for an AC or something. We'll post something through social media sometimes as well. So
cool.
So yeah, stay in touch. Yeah, all good.
Well, thank you, Danny. This has been wonderful. It has been way too long, and I'm so glad we got to catch up.
Yeah, for sure.
Coming on the show what?
I was just going to say one more thing before you went. I forgot to mention there is a new movie in the works.
Okay.
And the title is not 100% yet, so I won't give away the title that it's not. But there is another film in the works here soon that I'm directing for Full Moon, and also another one that I'm doing for another company coming soon. So definitely stay tuned for that stuff. So I forgot to mention
Well,
that.
keep me posted too, because I can
for sure.
Tweet things to Shriekfest, and I'll tweet them out to our people, and I'll help you get the word out when you're ready.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's for sure.
And thank you, Danny. It was great chatting.
Yeah.
Please keep in touch, because I'm a fan.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you too. You too. I'm a fan of Shriek Fest. I'm very grateful you guys took my movie on it back in the day, and I'm certainly glad you liked it. And hopefully, I'm able to submit again when we have something to do.
Yes,
So,
I would love it. And you should come
right.
out and check out how the festival has changed and grown through the years. Do you know
yeah,
we're
I'm sure.
13th year?
That's amazing! Wow, that's amazing.
Crazy, huh?
13. Are you still doing? Where do you guys hold the fest? Is it different every year, or is it?
Still Raleigh Studios.
Oh, is it still Raleigh? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you have a great night. Thank you so much.
Well, you too. Thanks for having me on the show. All right.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.